just how much people like Virginia, Sue Byron, Marty have done. Thing like this. It's just incredible. I can't believe it. I mean, you get along and you rock along for years and nothing great happens, and then all of a sudden you've got something like this. It's just incredible. And they did it. It's their show. And I appreciate it. Now, it's a great thing that the city of Sarasota can do things like this. It really makes all the difference in the world. Because these days are hard for artists. So many artists I know are not actually producing their artwork. They're having to go out and get jobs. And it's a hard thing. You feel like some of them feel like they're being cheated, and others feel like, well, I'm glad I can do something. And it's a different time than we've been through for years. I came up through the 50s. I was sent to Sarasota by Sears Roebuck in 1953 to the Sears store on Main Street. I was display manager. And after a while, I left Sears, and I went with the newspaper, and I was the arts editor and art critic and a special assignment writer. I had taken the science curriculum in high school, so I did a lot of environmental subjects as a special assignment writer. And Sarasota, I always felt like I had a real stake in Sarasota. But in 1969, I moved back to Atlanta, my home, and took a job there as arts editor of that paper. And in 1990, I retired from Atlanta and moved back down here. And the great thing was that when I got here, Art Target was here. A great group. I'm sorry that it couldn't last forever. But as it so happens with so many groups, people got worn out, moved away, things happened, and we lost the place that we had for our gallery. And it's just attrition, that's all. But in its time, it did great things. And I appreciate no end. Art Target gave me a start here in Sarasota. Now, as far as the work you see, the president of Art Target at that time, they proposed to give me a one-man show. And so I said, well, fine. So they started wondering what they should call my stuff. Nobody ever knows what to call my stuff. And James David was the president at that time. And he said, well, I know what to call it. He saw it's Southern Gothic Surrealism. And I said, well, that's fine with me. So that was kind of stuck ever since then. It's true. I'm a Southerner more than anything else. And the Gothic part is, well, maybe I'm pretty dark a lot of the time. And Surrealism, well, among the artists that I admired the most was Max Ernst and some of the rest of those people out of that group. So that maybe explained that much of it to you. And I think now perhaps there may be a few questions. Anybody got a question?
Questions? Tell me about the apple pie.
Well, when I was a youngster, I was somewhat appalled by the story of Adam and Eve that I used to hear in church all the time. It really kind of bugged me, to tell you the truth, as a youngster. And as I got older, I began to think about what this really means, you know. The story of Adam and Eve is a story of assigning status. It is a powerful story, and it's passed as a means of setting up the pecking order and establishing roles for men and women, and furthermore, developing a code of morals, especially among their offspring. And it's always kind of fascinated me. It still comes back. I always kind of resented the idea that we were all stuck with their sin, you know. So I still maybe exercising all those feelings by painting the apple and paint. And that's about it. All right.
How about the armadillo?
Armadillo, well, I was always fascinated by armadillos. Back in the 60s, I used to get out a lot. I hunted some, and I camped a lot. I fished some, and I was always fascinated by the armadillos in the bush. And of course, they come on up into the suburbs at that point, too. They were transplanted here during the 20s. These guys that had these roadside zoos were bringing them in. And they would escape from the zoos because they're powerful diggers. And they got away from the zoos, and they propagated. You know, I mean, they're all over the place. They're not just Texas. They're Florida, too. And they're great survivors. They come from the earliest age of mammals. And I kind of adopted that as a personal totem. I'm kind of a survivor myself. So the armadillo is my totem.
It seems that you have good bit of references of industry. I noticed you have several smokestacks.
Well, that goes back to my days of doing special assignments on environmental problems. Yeah, I've always been horrified by the fact that we're poisoning ourselves all the time just to make products.
I have a question.
Question?
Hanging over anticipation,
Yeah.
fire. Can you talk about that fire?
Well, there's no fire, really. Those are flowers down at the bottom of the tree.
To the side?
Oh, to the side. Anticipation. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of a doomsday sort of thing, I have to admit.
Is that a ruin to the other side?
Yeah.
I have to tell you, one thing I thought about is Gone with the Wind, the burning of Tara.
Well, that's always stuck with me, too. That was a fascinating story.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I was raised on that.
I'm sure you were. Yeah.
I guess I have a question.
Yeah.
So I noticed that a lot of your stuff, and not just here, you draw a lot from classical literature. Hi. Would you talk and tell us a bit about, where you draw from Dante and what all you get? Like, how does that inspire you, or where did
Well,
where
they're
did
just
that come
things that
from?
stuck with me, that's all. Ever since I first ever read any of the classics and the great literature. And these things stick with you. They become symbols of human experience, that's all.
Classicist there, yeah.
Anybody?
What is the time frame from the earliest painting to the most recent?
Well, these are some of them from the late 80s and then through the 90s and then more recent. I have had a kind of a gap in the past, say, since 2000 around there because my wife died and I had to get back to work and, a lot of things were going wrong. So I didn't get to paint as much as I would like to. But basically, the imagery comes from the 80s through now.
And whose totem is the dog or the wolf?
Well, we just always had dogs. Always. Dogs are part of my life.
Yeah.
Well, I did forget to say one thing. Sue Byron and Marty and I organized this together. And Sue Byron is an absolute genius at getting publicity because it was just amazing at the exposure that we got to this event. So I'd like to thank her. It's been a pleasure working with you.